Hi, welcome to this new video. Today we're going to be covering a lot of aspects regarding the Paint Sculpt workflow. This is just a basic walkthrough. I mean, it's nothing like very too deep because I really want to know if you will be interested in learning more about this. But if you really require a lot of details, you already have the guide that I previously published in this month. So you can check that step by step. Everything is detailed there. And if you have any questions about that, you can ask them right here in the comment sections. Since we want to paint using the sculpt tools, two colors here, and those two colors are represented in a vertex color. I'm going to be selecting icon here, and then I'm going to choose a different color. I'm going to be choosing green. Then I'm going to be drawing over here. And as you can see, the paint is very rough. Even if I press shift, it will smear the area, but then we'll still have all of these very chunky pieces. So why is this useful? This is kind of a very difficult paint if we're going to have all these smudgy edges, because it's based on the vertex count. As long as you have enough vertices, you will have a smoother paint. See, for example, this is starting to pull the color from this area. So the solution here is to subdivide this mesh even more. But as you can see, this already has a lot of vertices, almost 500,000 right there. Whenever you want to go to shade mode, you're going to encounter this problem. That even though that you have painted your mesh using the paint tool for vertices, you will not be able to display it. Now in the past, we are used to connecting a vertex color property, which is immediately created when you create using vertex paint. Remember that? This is the old traditional way of Blender to do vertex paint. But now we have Pablo de Barro's new way of painting vertices using sculpt mode. So whenever you create a vertex color in the traditional way, you're going to get this map over here. But whenever you're working with sculpt vertex color, this also stores color information. In my case, I'm going to be calling this fixie. Okay, but this could be color paint, just like that. So if you paint, I'm going to be connecting that into the emission. Okay, so in this case, it's color paint. I've just changed the name so you can see it. Shift A, search vertex color. This is how I got that node, this node. And then I connected it directly into the emission. So by logic, we should see the emission color from this paint. So let's go to shaded view, but no, we do not see anything. As a matter of fact, we only see another material up here and another material down here, the floor material, but we don't see anything of her material data at all. So what's going on? We need to first store the sculpt vertex color. The first thing you want to do, click there. And the second thing you want to do is to not use this old method, but rather the new attribute method and another node that we have for this new workflow. So what you want to do is to know your sculpt vertex color. Shift A, search, attribute. With this node selection active, you're going to click, copy, attribute, paste, enter, color to emission or a principal shader, I don't know, whatever you want. And now if you come here to shaded view, you're going to correctly display all of this. Even if you go to render view, you're going to still be able to see your color. This is how you represent your vertex color into emission. You can come back here, you can continue to color or paint or do whatever you want. Let's say I'm going to paint her leg in a green color. Okay, so it's all of that painted and stuff. And we already spoke why it's important to define facets, because we don't want these things. See, it's very uncomfortable. Now you can go here if you want to take the time, and if you do have the time, you can press shift, you know, to make it smoother. But it's very uncomfortable painting it this way. unless you have a lot of details that you really want to address, by clicking and dragging like I'm doing right now. I don't recommend this method. It takes too much time. What I do recommend, however, is to mask your area or go to edit mode, select the area that you want to paint and transform it into a facet and paint from there. Post box mask or lasso mask. So you can, select your thing and mask it out, come to facet and then facet from mask, and it will automatically create a mask. Now you will notice that this area is already darkened, and that is because a mask and a facet are active at the same time. So if you don't want to see the mask, press Alt M to clear out the mask so you can only see the facet. If you want to clear the facet, like we already mentioned, you will come here and then say facet from visible. Or you can come down here to edit facets. If you click there, you also have different options here. You can delete geometry, shrink the facet, grow the facet, fair tangency, which means to smooth, or fair positions, which also means to smooth out these things. Icon, which doesn't really have an icon, but it's under here. Okay, after you activate it, preferences, experimental, sculpt vertex tool, this icons will appear. So click on paint, and now let's pick a color. So the second workflow that I want you to pick up from this video is that whenever you click something here, you can either press N, come to tool, and have all of these options available for you to change on the tool, or you can change them up here all the way until options, all the way until this menu. So the workflow is like this. You pick a tool, you come up here, select your settings, your brush, your color, your stroke, your texture, whatever you need. Then you start painting. This is for the paint tool. But for other tools, like the mesh filter tool, for example, if you click it here, you're going to get a different top menu. Please pay attention to this because this is really important. And the second thing that you want to do is to select the mode in which this tool is going to be working. Okay, this is important. And now comes the last very important step on this workflow for certain tools here. Because you can click on the viewport and drag left, or click on the viewport and draw right. And for this special video, I'm going to be activating the cursor so that you can see what the cursor is doing on the screen. Okay, 8 minutes for introductory talk. Let's start working. First of all, there are new tools which are called the Paint Sculpt mode, and that you can activate by coming to Edit, Preferences, Interface, activate Developer Extras. This is important. This will activate this experimental tab down here, this experimental button down here on your Blender preferences, and now you need to check this box which says Sculpt Vertex Tools. And the point of that is so that you can paint using vertex. So what are vertices? Well, you already know that. If you go to edit mode, you can see this mesh is very, well, not that dense, but you see a lot of details here. And that's very important because each one of these points is going to allow you to have the color that you want to paint. It's not like physical paint space between this point and this point so that you can paint in between. No. Wherever you have a vertex, hence the name Vertex Paint Sculpt Tools, it's going to change this area to a single color. So the more defined you have your mesh, in this case, I think this has a subdivision level of 1. Let me check. Oh no, it has been already applied. But I still remember you can just go Control 1 and then a subdivision modifier will be applied to your model, and then you can use level 1 only and apply it. So viewport level 1, render level 1. Otherwise it's going to subdivide too many times. Your mesh is going to make it really heavy. Now let's signal on the static so you can see. Right now we're close to the 1,000,000 poly vertices. These are the stats for this character. I would recommend that you subdivide once or twice your character so it has a lot of subdivisions. Remember, sculpting and posing is not for animation. It's just for a still frame. So please do not get confused with these terms. This is so that you can pose your characters, and of course it's going to be imperfect, but then you can come with the sculpt tools and everything about the character you can continue to refine. For example, here you don't want this to be flat, so of course you would want to edit this. So let's delete this for a moment, and I already have my character subdivided. This is important. Let's go into the sculpt mode. Now the first thing you're going to notice here is that she has weird colors all over her. This is because we are introducing three different tools here. The first tool is called facets, and facets define an area of your mesh based on the topology. This is important for you to understand because if we already have a topology with a lot of quads, you can see a lot of quads, then facets, it's going to select the quads in that same shape. It's not going to do a soft shape because facets are meant to work with topology. Okay, in that regard, we're going to clear this model and then we're going to walk through three basic principles. Principle number one, whenever you create facets, you can separate your topology mesh and the sculpt tools to specifically work in that area for the facet. That's benefit number one. Benefit number two, since all of these sculpt tools can work in a specific facet, you can apply colors, specific colors for that. And since we have also mesh filters on the sculpt tools, you can also specifically remodel or reshape or adapt specific zones of your character once they have been defined by either a mask or a facet. Okay, enough talk, let's get to work. So the first thing I want you to do is to click here on paint, okay, because this is the aim of the tutorial. You need to know why we're going to paint sculpt. And paint sculpt, what will allow you to do is to grab your character, paint it at however you like. You don't need to open UVs, you don't need to texture her at all. You can just directly paint it. And the uppermost benefit of this is that you can upload this model later onto Sketchfab. So please review the document that I'm also attaching down here so you can see the entire process. It's described there. Okay, so let's grab the paint icon, which doesn't really have an icon, but it's under here. Okay, after you activate it, preferences, experimental, sculpt vertex tool, this icons will appear. So click on paint, and now let's pick a color. So paint, and I'm going to select the red color, and I'm going to be painting, I don't know, probably this globe. I'm going to be making sure that symmetry is not active because this pose is not symmetric, and this is what we wanted. So I'm just going to draw on paint. Okay, this is great. Okay, looks very blocky, Mr. Schiller. This looks choppy. Why would I ever want to use this? Yes, I agree that this is kind of a little bit problematic at the moment, and this is why I want to introduce the facet method. Okay, so yeah, there it is, Mr. Schiller. I finished this and it looks terrible. I don't like it. Why would you ever, focus on these things? Okay, I'm just demonstrating the tools. So let's undo all of that. Let's make the same thing except by using facets. So here we go. I'm going to click on draw facets icon, which is on the sculpt tool. And now if I press the left click mouse, as you can see down here, okay, it's going to, as a matter of fact, you can see all of my shortcuts here. It's going to make a different color every time I click with a new click. It's making a new facet. Oh no, Mr. Schiller, this is getting worse. So how am I even going to paint here? The workflow here is like this. Whenever you paint an area, an automatic color is going to be assigned to that facet. And if you want to continue to paint on the same area with the same facet, you will press Control. Okay? And thus you can continue to paint with this color. But if you press Control outside the facet area, it's going to turn itself into an eraser. So make sure that you click Control. This is just like the color picker thing. You start painting inside the facet area, press Control, press left click, and then you can continue to do this. This is a very important thing to remember because you're going to be using this a lot. Again, if you click outside the area and press Control, you will be erasing. Because why? You're picking this color. That is what is going on. And this color is no color. So it's going to assign no color to the rest of the facet. That is great. So if you want to keep on painting with the same color, remember, Control acts like a color picker on facets. So click Control, click left click, start on this area, and then you can continue to move to the outside area painting. Okay, this is a very important concept. I see that most of the time it's not explained on the videos, and then people get confused. So if you let go of Control and paint another area, of course, you're going to get a different color. Okay, so let's undo that. Undo, undo, undo. How do I clear all of my facets? This is a very important question. Every tool has a top, if we can say it this way, top menu, which has different options. In our case, we want to clear out or delete or make one single facet from everything we see. And for that, we need to come here to Facet from Visible. This way, it will take the entire thing and make it only one single color. Facet from Visible. This will delete everything in the viewport. Now, all of these properties are going to be stored later on into the Sculpt Vertex tools. Okay, that was easy. What I'm going to do now, it's another nifty shortcut. I'm going to start on this area. It's very important where you place your cursor in the mesh, because starting from that point, you're going to draw the entire facet area faster. Watch this. I'm going to be placing myself here, and then I'm going to expand. Press Shift W, and from this point, without left clicking, you're only going to drag your mouse. And now your facet is going to start expanding. Now, since I went out of bounds, you'll see that it will automatically search for every face topology out of bounds, and it will quickly paint. Please notice the position of the mouse. It's already outside of the topology mesh, and hence it quickly expanded. So it's very important where you guide your cursor so that it will know where to go. I'm going to keep going up now into the topology. Please notice that the cursor is hovering the topology of this mesh. Okay, so it keeps on growing, and expanding. Now let's say, for example, that you, for some reason, stopped here. Okay, so this is painted right there. But how do you continue to expand this? Again, it depends where you have your facet already active. If you hover this area right here and then Shift W again, you will continue to paint in another different color. So what do you do in that case? You need to continue expanding this other thing. So you can come here to Facets and then Grow Facets. It's Control W this time. So let's continue using that. Control W, and then of course you will continue to grow the area of the facet. So Control W again will allow you to continue to do this operation. Control W once again, and I think that looks pretty alright. Let's go to the other side. Oh no, this looks pretty bad. So you can use one of the methods that I presented previously. I'm gonna paint this. Okay, this is just too tedious. Control Z. I'm going to want to expand this. So what I'm going to do is to select again the draw facets, and then I'm going to come here. I'm going to press Shift W, and then I'm going to start dragging my mouse, not clicking, not left clicking, just dragging. Remember, through the topology. Don't go away from the topology. I'm just drawing up on the topology, drawing down, or rather dragging up on the topology, dragging down to the topology. This is very important because this concept is not presented in most of the videos that I have seen, and people really get confused. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know if either they're clicking to paint or just dragging to paint. And in this case, it's dragging to paint, but they don't say that, so you may know this. And also they don't know if they go out of the way why everything paints. It's because of the topology. So this is what Facets is doing. It's recognizing the topology and making sure that everything is selected. So I'm going to stop there because it seems a reasonable um, a reasonable topology. Okay, so we see that we have gone overboard. So let me finish this by pressing Control and then painting this area. Looks good. Control, painting this area. Whoops. You know, everything is depending on your topology. So this is why it's very important that you get up close and check the details and stuff. And we have a problem because right now everything is being painted with the selection. It's not being limited by the object itself. So we can fix that by coming here into options and then saying auto masking, facets, or mesh boundaries, or facets boundaries. So in my case I'm going to be using facets and mesh boundaries. That way this will not get painted. Now watch, I'm going to click again here, Shift W here. This is just to demonstrate that it's not going to affect the lace here. See? So that is crucial information that we needed. Let's reset again and let's make this in one go. Shift W, back down here, and it's there in one go. And again, remember this is working on the subdivided level that you have. So this is why it's important not to overdo that. Yeah, I think I'll leave this for now. Okay, Mr. Chiller, but this looks too abrupt. Can't we like soften this thing? Yes, you can. If you press Shift and left mouse click, you're going to smooth that vertex. You're going to change the direction of that vertex. So even if you have something very hard like this, and then you come up close, and then you press Shift and then left mouse click, it's going to modify that surface vertex, and it's going to make it smoother like this. Okay, perfect. Oh, here we have a little, oh no, this is the lace thing. So as you can see, the 3D object, the lace, was not properly placed, and this is why it's intersecting inside the leg. But it doesn't matter because we're learning step by step. These are baby steps on the Sculpt Vertex paint. So now we have this facet. What do we do with that? Since we have defined this facet as the area that we are interested in painting, because remember, this is all about painting. This is about using this icon. So you're going to click here, and you're going to notice that all of this has changed. Your properties to paint have changed. And this is because if you want to paint with your mouse or your stylus over your mesh, you can click on this. But there is another way to paint something that you have a selection on. And that way you can make quicker paint colors. And that thing is called the color filter. When you apply this icon right here, automatically you're going to get up here the options in which this tool works. Similarly, if you press N, then you're going to have the active tool here, and then the filter type that you select right here is the same type that you're going to select up here. So you can either work with the N panel or this one. And why is this useful? Because when you press Control Spacebar, you get a magnified version of this window, so that you can hide the toolbar to have more space. And you can also hide the header. Right click on there, right click on this area, and then hide header, and you still have more areas to work. And obviously you can adjust this, so you can press N and then you still have more area. This is very important because for presentations this is what you want to do. You want to work almost in expert mode, if we can say it so. And if you want to return your header, up here it's a little drop down thingy. Press that and then your header menu comes back. Of course, you know that if you press T, your panel comes back, and then if you press Control Spacebar, then you're going to get the entire UI back where you had it. So that's just a tip. Anyway, so we have this color filter. I'm going to be setting it to fill. Now automatically when I set it to fill, I'm going to get the option to use a fill color. We don't have a palette yet. You cannot build a palette yet, but it's very important that you work with your character's preset colors with hex colors like we're seeing right here. So it's very important that you probably open, I don't know, a text. Let's open this quickly. Text editor. Let's create a new text file in here. We're going to call this color palette hex. And then I'm going to say skin belongs to this color so you don't miss it. Okay, paste there, paste here. Okay, so now whenever you're painting skin, you're going to come to your color palette hex. Let's say gloves, and then you're going to select a red color. Okay, and this is the hex code. Copy and paste. Okay, so now you cannot miss different hues or different code whenever you have this already. Okay, so now how do we specifically paint on this? Facets block, or actually they do not let you paint on the area that you're interested in. Let's try this. Fill the skin color, select this one and paste. Okay, so we have the skin color and we want to paint that. Now this is what I was talking about at the beginning. The way this tool works is clicking on the screen and then dragging left or right. Okay, it doesn't matter if it's posed on the geometry. It doesn't matter if it's posed on another part of the body or another part of the geometry. It doesn't matter if it's out of bounds. It doesn't matter if it's up or down. It only matters that if you click from left to right, or if you click from right to left, anywhere on the screen. Okay, so watch this. I'm going to click here and then I'm going to be dragging all the way over here, and then you're not going to notice much of a difference except that the entire body is being painted on this color, because like I mentioned before, facets prevents you from painting something. Now I'm going this way, and as you can see, it's undoing. So if I go all the way over here, I'm filling with the opacity using this color. So what do? We need to turn this facet selection as an inverted selection. And how do we do that? First of all, you can come here to the facets menu. Although we're using another tool, the facet menu always stays up here, and then you can invert that face selection by coming invert visible facets. And since we only have one, the only thing that is going to be available to paint is going to be this. And this is why it's important that if you're painting your entire model, your entire facet will continue to be the same color of this. So this should also be the same facet color. This also should be the facet color. But Mr. Schiller, how do we continue if the topology is not continuous? The arm is not continuous from here to here. That's when you use masks. You're going to want to mask all your skin parts, then turn them into a facet, and finally invert them. That's how you do it. And I know it's kind of a lot of steps. We're not used to that, but I'm just explaining what everyone else does not want to explain, and this is important. And that's the third method, by the way, that we spoke at the beginning, but we're at the second method. So let's finish this. And this is what we can do for the arms, the legs, everything that is separated. Facet from masked. That's very important. Facet from visible. And facets from edit mode selection. This one is actually pretty nifty because you can go to the edit mode, select the area that you're interested in. Let's say, for example, this. Go back to sculpt mode, facets, and then facets from edit mode selection, and then you will automatically have this. I find that's the fastest way, at least for me, how I like to work on this, because you can select all of these areas, you know, like the skin, this side of the thigh. Switch back to sculpt mode, and then make sets from the edit selection mode, and you will see that all of that will be selected automatically. Let's reset this again. Facets from visible, so now everything is a facet. So of course if you're going to invert the facets, everything is going to disappear. So this is important that you understand why this is happening. You have another option, which is facets, initialize facets by loose parts, facet boundaries by materials, normals, UV seams. Look at that, if you have already UV'd a character, you can use this. Edge by creases, we can, define a crease. In the case that you don't know what a crease is, let me go here. Edit mode. I'm going to be pressing Alt. You can see all of my shortcuts here, by the way. Alt in this position, everything is set there. Press N in edit mode. Please remember we're working on edit mode. Come here into item, and here we have edge crease, or mean vertex crease. Okay, edge data and vertices data. Now we can do this on both, either on a point or on a vertex distance, which basically it's an edge. So let's concentrate on the down part here. And mean crease, so if you raise this all the way to 1, you will see this red line. And when you're back here in sculpt mode, and when you're here in facets, and when you go to initialize facets, you can select by edge creases. This is important because it will stop, or it will grow, or it would recognize that you have an edge crease there. Let me see if I can activate this. No, it's not available here. It's only available on the edit mode. There you can see it, see? So let's say that I have this area and this other area defined like this, okay? And we are also going to increase this section, mean crease, okay? So we have an edge here and an edge here defined by the crease. Let's go back to sculpt mode, and then I'm going to set initialize facets by edge creases. And sure enough, you will see that this is also defined. So let's recap. Up until now, we have seen that there are two ways to work with some of the tools that we have here. The first is the paint tool. We already know that it paints directly over the surface wherever you paint. You have the options up here. When you press the N and then you go to tool, you also have additional options here, which are the same things that the ones that you have up here. But whenever you need to change some other tools, like the color filter tool, they will only allow you to select this drop down menu function, and then they will work by either clicking on the left and dragging to the right, or clicking to the right and dragging to the left anywhere on the viewport. This specifically one only works on the viewport in this way. It doesn't need to be on top of the surface or at the edge of the topology. It doesn't matter. It doesn't take that into account. And last but not least, the mesh filter tool, which also transforms everything you have created on your facets as a limit. Remember, whenever you create something in a facet, it's not going to be affected. You need to invert that. And that is why we're explaining how to do this from the facet menu. So again, facet from visible. Now you know how this thing works. So I'm going to be clearing those things off by setting them back to 0. Again, setting them back to 0. If you prefer this way, it's your choice. But so far I have already presented all 4 methods for selection. So let's do a new facet by coming here, clicking into draw facets. And as you can see up here, it says when you want to expand the active facet, you need to Shift Alt W. So let's do that. I'm going to Shift W, I think this part worked better. Shift W, and then I'm going to start expanding. And let's say for some reason I stopped down here, but you want to continue expanding, like in this case, this section. So it says right here that you need to do Shift Alt W. Again, Shift Alt W, and then you continue to expand from that area onwards. Okay. Now, of course, that is also going to make this altogether grow. So it might not be a very useful case when you have different levels of selection. Shift Alt W here. Whoops. Shift W over here. So yeah, it continues to expand. So basically you really need to know where you're doing this expansion from. Control, left click, and let's continue to draw. Again, if this is too hard, press shift and left click, and this is going to smooth it out. Smooth out this selection. This is smooth enough for me, so I'm going to leave it there. So now that this has been selected, if you press H on this area, you're going to notice that only this area remains, right? Because the rest of the areas have been occluded and hidden. Alt H while you're hovering on this area will allow you to set everything back. So if we do the inverse, if we go here, H, it's going to hide that section. Alt H is going to show that section. Okay, so I'm in edit mode right now, and I have selected all of these skin vertex groups. And the way I do that is by selecting, for example, this that belongs to her leg, and then clicking assign after creating a new vertex group, which in this case was a skin. So I'm going to select all of that and then assign it. Control plus to expand, like that's enough, and then assign. And now Alt A, you can read all of my shortcuts here, and then I'm going to click select, and all of these skins sections have been already defined for me. This is in edit mode. Okay, now let's switch to sculpt mode. And remember, all of these vertex groups have been already selected. So now we're gonna come to facets and then create facets from edit mode selection. And as you can see, all of my skin have been already defined there. So given the case that you have already, created your part separated by facets, the next thing you want to do is to mask some of the things that you're going to be painting or that you're going to be affecting. Okay, so that concludes our first impressions of what we can do and what we can expect when we are working with these sculpt tools. I really didn't want to go any deeper because we're going to have time to cover each of those tools and modules along the way. But right now I want to recap by doing everything with a simpler model than the one that we already have seen on the video. Shift A, monkey, Control 2. This is going to subdivide this. I'm going to apply it. Control A while I'm hovering over here. Control A will automatically apply. Right click, shade smooth. By the way, you can read my shortcuts here. This thing is on beta, so that's why you cannot see it very clearly, even though I'm clicking and left clicking. It's somehow messed up. Anyways, get the Suzanne sculpt mode, and now you know what each tool does. And it was very important for me to demonstrate the use of the masking and inversion and inverting the facets. So I'm going to click on facet. Okay, I'm going to be selecting this part of the head. Now you know that if you press shift, it's going to smooth it out because it's going to move the topology. And by the way, the strength of the smoothness, let me undo this, it's determined by this guy right here, by the smooth brush. So if this is too high, you can make it lower like that, and now you can go back again to draw facets. And remember, if you click again, a new color is going to be created, so undo that. I'm going to be pressing shift, and in this case it's going to be acting over here as the softener for the actual area. But if you want to continue to paint the area, now you know that the topology position of your cursor is important. So if I'm over here and I want to continue painting in this color, or rather in this facet, and if I press Control, left click, I'm going to be painting white. No, that's not what we want. Control Z. We want to expand this from here over here, so therefore we place the cursor over this area, Control left click of the mouse, and then we can continue to expand it to another area. That's great. Okay, this is a very unique shape. So now we want to hide this thing. So while my cursor is still hovering this area, I'm going to press H, and now you can see the result. It will hide everything except this area. Alt H will hide everything. What happens if I have two different colors? So in this case, I'm going to make another circle selection. This is too very rough, but no problem. I can, press Shift and soften it just a little bit. Okay, I like this. Now if I hover this area and press H, only this area will appear. Alt H, H again while I'm hovering this area, Alt H again. So this is important for the parts that you need to extract or mask, because this is the way it's supposed to work. On the previous model, I erroneously applied a solidify modifier which created a double face geometry, and that's why whenever you select something, make sure that it's always the only geometry you're selecting on your model. So in my case, you can see it's only a single face model, and you can see the topology there has been modified in order for us to smooth out this surface. And since I only had level 1 subdivision, that's why you're watching this like that. Again, if we are going to invert, let's for example go over here, and we're going to learn that the shortcut is, there is no shortcut. So invert visible facets. So again, it hides everything. So I guess this is going to be fixed in the near future because I'm using Blender 3.2, and somebody has to report this thing because that's not what it's supposed to do. What it's supposed to do is to respect Alt H, respect the auto masking facets. Let's see, let's try it one more time. And let's see, mesh boundary, facets boundaries. Yeah, I guess that's it because it's auto masking thing. So facets, invert visible facets. No, it doesn't work. I guess we need to do something else. And by the way, somebody told me that if you come here, let me Alt H. Somebody told me that if you come here and then reset the brush, it's going to work the way it's supposed to work. So I don't know, maybe that's what we need. So let's see, invert visible facets. No. So that's H. Invert visible facets. Yeah, there we go. Now it's working. So I don't know if this did the trick, the reset the brush thing, but yeah, I've been told in the past that there are still some glitches. As you can see, I'm on Blender 3.2, and the purpose of you and I using all of these tools is to submit feedback to the developers so that they can fix all of these little nuances that the user interface has. Alright, so that has been everything from my side, and the next video we're going to be fully using the range of tools that we have over here, and it's just a wonderful experience, so I hope to share that with you. Let me see if we can invert this on one last time. Invert visible states. Yeah, this is this is just the way it works. Alright, thank you very much. This has been Pierre Chiller, and I hope to see you in the next video. As always, every question you have, please type in the comment section down below, and don't forget to try Blender. Blender is powerful and beyond artistry compatible.